Alrighty, let's see here. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. This is Devy Manual, episode 3.10, the podcast which talks about college players and the Devy landscape, plus how to use the Devy team you built to translate to a successful NFL fantasy football team. I really need to work on making that more wordy. I tell you, that's like the longest tagline in the history of any podcast. So, anyways, this week I'm super excited. One of my mentors, this is a guy I totally look up to. I probably copy way too much stuff that he does. Don't tell him. But Travis May, how you doing, bud?
Doing great. I'm in my Purdue gear. I'm ready for the Big Ten episode and just to see some more college football. Other teams getting back now, and I kind of feeling more and more like a full college football season with all the teams actually in action here soon. So thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it is weird looking at the rankings and not seeing Big Ten teams and Pac-12 teams, and seeing teams like North Carolina ranked fifth who should never have been ranked that high. So, anyways, it's kind of weird. So, it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, and not for long with North Carolina either, I guess, after this past weekend.
No, I didn't see how far they fell, but I bet it was probably in the teens, that's for sure. So, if you don't know Travis, I mean, honestly, what are you doing? Travis, like you said, he's the host of the College to Canton podcast, and he writes at RotoViz, and he's just a great Devy mind. And you, ironically, on your last podcast, said to stop in your DMs and pick your mind about your process. And I swear I could do like a whole show on your process, because like I kind of like had wanted to pick your mind a little bit here. Like how do you find some of these players that you find? Like I troll 24/7. That's kind of like my little, I listen to their podcasts. I get a lot of their names, the high school names and stuff from them. But as I was following you guys' Pinnacle draft, I was just amazed at the guys you were finding, guys that I hadn't even heard of yet. So how do you do it, man? Like,
yeah, it's a lot of just building like year over year, I think, because the more that you're into, I guess the more years you're into Devy and into college and into recruiting, like you're already familiar with all the 2020 class because you've been watching 2/3 of them, like 2/3 of the top guys get talked about and tossed around like, oh, he's going here. Oh, he's actually going to go. He's decommitted and he's going here. So, if you're already familiar with the 2020 class, well, that makes it a lot easier to get familiar with the 2019 class. And when you're already familiar with that class and a little bit of 2018, you just kind of add layers and layers and layers. And eventually you're nerding out, thinking about how good Archie Manning is looking, or not Archie, but Arch Manning's looking as a true freshman in high school already this fall. So yeah, you can, it's a rabbit hole that you can get buried in pretty quickly.
That is for sure, man. It's amazing, but it's fun to uncover these guys, before other people talk about them. And it's just what kind of makes it fun for me is watching them, in high school, then in college, and then on your fantasy teams. And it almost makes fantasy secondary, which is I love. Like I love that. So it's the more and more I play this, the more and more I watch college football, and I don't hardly watch any NFL anymore even. So it's kind of strange. I never thought I would ever be that way. But I love college football, and now watching high school even. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's tons to get excited about. And yeah, that Pinnacle draft you mentioned, that was a blast. 100 rounds, and we were picking kids that aren't even eligible till like the 2027 NFL draft. I think Shane had a couple. I think he had the most of the just insanely way out there recruits. But it'll be fun to see who gets the most right, I guess, like in this impossible to predict kind of format, 6-7 years out. But
right,
yeah.
I kind of wanted to analyze them. I told you guys I would, and I'm like, I don't know if I can. Like it's crazy. Like it's amazing and crazy to me. But like I'm in a league that's similar to that, and it was I drafted a kid that was 14 this year, so yeah, it was kind of nuts. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Happened.
Yeah. All right. We have some news, actually, some good news. And most of this came out just today and yesterday. So the big news is Journey Brown is out possibly for the season with an undisclosed medical condition, which is kind of odd. I think Pat Fryermuth actually had tweeted that recently. And then who did you say the first one you saw was? Or
I think it was maybe, I don't know. Feldman breaks just about everything from The Athletic, Bruce Feldman. But a few other sources were saying that Journey Brown is, out with an undisclosed medical condition, and that just dropped Monday night. And It's a bummer because he's like one of the most athletic running backs in the country. I mean, he can probably run, 4.4 ish, just big play machine for Penn State. They'll be okay, but it'll look a little bit different for them. So that really stinks, and you're gonna have to probably drop him way down until we figure out what like your rankings for Devy, until we figure out what this is. Because if is it career ending? Is it just is it like a heart issue? Because I mean, it could be something bad. You don't really know. So hate to see it for Journey. Hopefully, it's not as bad as we think.
Right, he was one I was really looking forward to watching this year. His draft stock, and in particular, he's a guy who just flashed late last year, and I hope big things are hoping for him this year. So, another guy who is opting out of this season is Nico Collins, who's not returning to Michigan, which leaves them. We're going to talk about a little later in the show. Kind of thin at wide receiver there. He was, one of the guys that I was looking forward to coming back this year as well. I had him as like a late, probably early day 3 type guy. I liked a lot about his game, but I thought he could have raised his draft stock a lot this year.
Yeah, I thought he was like the best wide receiver for Michigan, really, for the past couple of years. So it really hurts to see him out. But it had been kind of rumored, I guess, for 3 weeks or so. But they've kind of made it official this week, which again, hate to see it, but I'm excited to see who breaks out for them. But we'll get to that.
Yes. All right, Puka Williams also opted out for the rest of the season. Apparently, he didn't want to continue to lose there in Kansas. So he's another guy who's like, I don't want to lose any. I'm actually surprised a lot more guys didn't opt out this year. When when you don't have much left. I mean, I don't think he has a whole lot left that he can prove. He's another guy who I have, who might go day 3. Good change of pace guy, explosive back. So I don't know. What do you got on Puka there, Travis?
I mean, with Puka, I mean, it's funny. Maybe he saw what Herbert did last year, opting out after 4 games and just being like, you know what? I'm going to transfer somewhere and see if I can just go make some magic somewhere else. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I've seen whether he was 100% like, signed with an agent and on to the NFL draft, or if he's, looking to transfer elsewhere. But if I were him, I'd be looking to add some weight in this offseason and then go play for a real school.
Yeah, 100%, man. I don't think it would be really, really late if he got drafted, and it'd be hard for him to stick. So, and then another player opting out, Damonte Coxey from Memphis, which that one kind of caught me off guard too. I kind of noticed the other night when I was watching the crazy Memphis UCF game that I was surprised he wasn't on the field. And I don't know, did he opt out before that game, or is it have been?
So the rumor started swirling immediately after the weekend before, and that hey, I think come up on some message boards, and then the that he was opting out. And so it was funny prepping for college football DFS. Like, I build a model every single week, and Coxey was like priced at a really, really nice rate to have everywhere. But it turned out that we just plugged in Calvin Austin to a bunch of our lineups, his replacement, and that worked out. And he was actually cheaper than Damonte Coxey. So really, really nice win there. Got some free points out of that one. But and Memphis had like what? That game had what, 99 points scored or something insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, that worked out okay.
Yeah, it was one I actually got to like watch as it happened the other night. One of the rare weekends where my wife was gone, and I was actually able to watch football for about 10 hours on Saturday, which darn, that was horrible. So, all right, as the last of the news I have for the week, we'll go through a couple of the big games, then we'll dive into players and a Big Ten preview. I don't want to spend too much time on these games. At this point of the week, you've probably heard about all these games. Obviously, the big one was Alabama defeating Georgia. They kind of kept it close there for a little while. Georgia was leading at half, and then the wheels fell off. You saw the true side of Stetson Bennett there. I thought he looked pretty decent in the first half. You saw, some promise that he could be it, and then just all fell to heck. So we'll go deeper into a couple of the players in that game or later, Mac Jones and Devonta Smith, but Najee Harris, another big game, 31 for 152. So didn't see much on the Georgia side that was super impressive, as far as Devy performances. But, do you have anything on that one, Travis, and the ones we're going to go into later?
We'll go into a couple of the guys later on, but yeah, that was a crazy game. Alabama likes teasing teams apparently for like first half and just like, hey, you know what? We'll let you think you can play with us for 30 minutes, but we'll actually put our tri pants on for the second half and then just put you away.
That is certainly what it seemed like. They were just like a mouse or a cat toying with a mouse, sort of. So the big upset this weekend. I don't know if it was big. Well, like, I guess it was big.
Yeah,
Florida
yeah.
State. Florida State beat North Carolina, and I mean it was looked like it was going to be crazy ugly, and then Florida State let off the gas pedal in the second half, which I thought was kind of odd. Like, just keep going. I mean, their numbers were not particularly wonderful. What was your? I need to ask you this. I mean, Sam Howell is. I kind of go back and forth between him and Rattler as the number one in that class. What do you think of Sam Howell so far this year? It's been
Yeah.
kind of not great.
It's funny. I think, I mean, he's not anywhere near the level of Trevor Lawrence, but I think after Lawrence's huge year, teams had an offseason to really look closely at him and just take advantage of some things that they could slow down. And actually, North Carolina was one of the teams that was able to slow Trevor Lawrence down early when they faced him in his sophomore season, and actually almost beat Clemson. I think early in Trevor Lawrence's sophomore season. I think that teams are figuring out ways to just get him under pressure, force him to make tough, quick decisions, and he's still trying to make those throws downfield and drop it into a bucket to his wide receivers. And teams are just playing a safer, deeper look, adding one more safety in a spot where they can get to the ball because they know that Howell likes to be that deep downfield gunslinger, just relying on Diami Brown and I guess this past week Bo Corrales. But really, Daz Newsome, targeting his guys way downfield, and he's having to adjust. And when he makes adjustments and starts going through his reads and finding guys at the mid-level, finding guys, actually finding his running backs for dump-offs and things like that, just going through his full progression, he's finding success. But I think when he rushes it and just plays that chuck it deep to his favorite guy, that's where he's gotten in trouble. So I think he's just continuing to grow. He's only a true sophomore. So we're going to see Sam Howell get better and better. And he showed that he could do that in the second half. They were down 31-7, and then they scored 3 quick touchdowns in the second half and almost came down and won the game. So he's a sophomore. He's going to figure it out. By the end of this season, I think he'll be right back where we thought he would be in that 2022 quarterback one conversation.
Right. I agree. He's had the several games this year where he has looked kind of rough. It was first half, and then second half he's turned it on. And even this game, he ended up with nearly 400 yards passing. I mean, it wasn't like it was a scrub game, but he was right near 60, less than 60% on the end. And he just, you're right. Sometimes we forget. We expect everybody to come in and be Trevor Lawrence from day one,
Yeah, and no one is Trevor Lawrence. Like, he's the most perfect prospect we've ever seen. So, yeah.
So, all right. This one was really fun. This is another game I got to watch as it happened. Also, I went to South Carolina beat Auburn, which is kind of crazy. I'm sorry, I had to bring it up, but
no, that's okay.
Wasn't the first time in like 114 tries or something like that. So they were bound to get it eventually.
Yeah, I think it was. I think the World War II hadn't happened. I think the last time that they beat Auburn, so it had been a bit. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that was awesome, though, to just watch a few of their defenders have crazy days. Like, South Carolina has a really underrated defense. Like Ernest Jones at linebacker, J.C. Horn. I called him J.C. Smith for some reason. I think I was thinking Shy Smith.
I saw that.
Yeah. I was like, because they have Shy Smith, the wide receiver. It's J.C. Horn, who shut down Seth Williams all game long. So it was crazy, and it just brought to the attention that Auburn is still struggling to install their new offense, and it shows. And Bo Nix is trying to do too much, and he's looking more and more like Ian Book than an actual NFL quarterback. So not what you want to see out of Bo Nix. Not quite good enough Bo Nix. So it's whatever. I'll get over it. War Eagle still.
Yeah, at least you have Tank, man. Tank is, man, is he fun to watch, man. He makes that class.
Tank Bigsby is legit. Like, he is going to be. I mean, he's my running back one for the 2023 NFL draft, and it's not just because I like Auburn. I mean, even beforehand. I mean, when you have a kid who's even in high school, 6 foot 215, running a 4.5, and he can catch the ball and he can make people miss inside. Like, the contact balance that he's already shown against SEC competition, man, it's just he's the total package, and he's what 18 years old, so
Yeah.
can't wait to see what he becomes.
Oh yeah, he's my number one too for that class. So, I mean, obviously, it can change with Zach. We haven't even seen Zach Evans and very little of Bijan Robinson yet. So, but
Yeah,
still, I mean, he looks phenomenal. So, all right. And the last game I did want to talk about just a little bit was the Memphis UCF game. We alluded
yeah,
to it a little bit earlier. That was just a fun game. One of those games. If you like defense, I'm sorry, don't turn this game on.
yeah.
But
Don't.
it was so much fun. I love both of the quarterbacks in this game. And you look at the number, like I
Yeah,
don't know if Brady White's ever going to be in the NFL, but I like watching him, and he just seems to have it. And he was 34 of 50 for 486 and 6 touchdowns. But then Dylan Gabriel on the other side, 35 of 49 for 601 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like
yeah.
it was
Six
nuts.
hundred
He
yards.
almost
Yeah, and lose,
yeah,
and you lose with 600 yards. Like that's so great.
right.
Oh man.
Nuts,
Yeah,
man.
gosh.
Marlon
So
Williams for
rough.
UCF, another huge game. 191 yards receiving on 13 catches. He's looked really good this year. So I don't know. I haven't got to break down, like from a technical aspect. Is he getting, how is he getting open and stuff? But he's really putting up some gaudy numbers this year. So, but I like both of those quarterbacks. I like Gabriel quite a bit as a possible NFL prospect. I mean, what do you think about those two guys?
Yeah,
Gabriel and
Gabriel
White.
is going to quickly join the 2022 quarterback one conversation here soon if we don't watch out, because I mean he's looking legit. He was really good last year in spots, but this year every game so far he's looked really promising. Even in games where he hasn't put up 600 yards. Brady White is already like I think 47 years old, so he's not probably going to be it.
Feels like it, yeah.
Yeah.
It does feel
But
like he's been around.
yeah, I don't think Brady White's a pro. He might be on a practice squad or something. But Gabriel has some real upside. Another true sophomore that would be eligible a year from next spring.
Wow. Yeah. Got some good quarterbacks coming up, man. Got some good ones. All right, we're gonna do some. Every week, I like to do 3 players that we want to highlight. So,
Sure.
Travis, go ahead and talk about your first guy that you'd like to highlight this week, man.
Sure. So Amari Rogers is a guy that I've kind of discredited because I've looked beyond him. I've looked at the other wide receivers for Clemson and gotten excited about them and just ignored Amari Rogers because of the archetype of player that he projects to be at the next level. I think maybe it's because I got burnt by Artavis Scott from a few years ago. But Amari Rogers is showing to not just be like an underneath bubble screen, short range slot guy that really has to be schemed open. He's actually making some big difference making plays, and further removed from an injury that should have kept him out like all last season. He still came back last year and produced decently down the stretch for Clemson, but 6 catches, 161 yards, and 2 touchdowns, all in I believe the first half this past weekend against Georgia Tech. So that can no longer be ignored. He's the only trustworthy volume receiver for Clemson, and everyone else is clearly just still figuring it out. Like Frank Ladson, he's added some weight, but he's figuring out how to play at his new weight. Joseph Ngata is disappointing colossally. EJ Williams kind of flashed, but he's a true freshman for them. But the guy for Clemson this year is Amari Rogers, and so he's really putting together an effort that's going to get him drafted. I don't know where he's going to get drafted. But it's probably early day 3-ish now at this point. But if he continues to develop, he could be somebody that sneaks up even higher.
Right? Yeah, I think everybody thought another guy was going to step up, and another one of those
Yeah,
big name, and he's just been, Mr. Steady, and it's been kind of crazy to watch. So, first guy I wanted to talk about was DeMonte Smith from Alabama. I know this is probably kind of a cop out, but I don't know. Just the more I watch of this guy, with all the hype that gets around that Alabama receiving crew, he's been overshadowed by Judy, Ruggs. Now he's pretty much overshadowed by Waddle, and then everybody's talking about Mechie. And Devonta Smith just keeps putting up these crazy numbers. And when I watch him on tape, I'm most impressed by his overall game. Like, I don't think he's got the elite trait. He doesn't have that elite speed like Waddle has, or the elite, route running that Judy had. but he's just a baller. Like he seems like he always is in the right spot at the right time for his quarterback. He makes clutch play after clutch play. He's very tough, aggressive. I love watching him play, and I think he's a little on the skinny side, but he plays bigger and tougher. And I've been really super impressed. And I think he's a guy that will go. He probably will be the fifth or sixth receiver drafted in this class, which is crazy to me because I think he could easily be the best Alabama receiver when it's all said and done. Of the ones we're talking about, of those, six or seven that I talked about. So I just
Yeah.
love him more and more. Like the more I watch of him. So
Dude, yeah, he could end up having the best production profile of any of the Alabama wide receivers since, I guess, Amari Cooper. I mean, he's already gotten a better one than Jerry Judy better than Henry Ruggs, looking like he's still maintaining a higher production profile and had an earlier breakout, I guess, than even Jalen Waddle, depending on your thresholds for breakout seasons. So, yeah, Smith has really answered the call and just continually said, "Hey, guys, I'm still here. I'm still the guy. I'm still the number one option, unlike the number one or number two team in the country." He's going to be a slam dunk first round pick.
I hope so, man. All right. I like your second guy a lot too. He's a guy I've been breaking down more and more tape of lately. So.
Yeah, Javonte Williams is my second guy. And this past weekend, obviously, the first half didn't go how they drew it up for North Carolina. But Javonte Williams, North Carolina running back, shares time with Michael Carter there. It's a really deadly 1-2 punch this season, both of them averaging like over 8 yards per touch this year. But Javonte Williams is actually a year younger and about 20, 25 pounds heavier, yet still somehow is faster and a better receiver and better in terms of contact balance and adding yak. And it's just, he's the better back there. I don't know why I guess it's out of respect for Michael Carter that they don't give him even more of a workload. But this past weekend, he actually ran for 119 rushing yards and added 67 through the air and a touchdown. Has 8.4 yards per touch this year. Really big body, 5'11", 220 back that I'm really excited about, and really almost has 20% receiving yard market share as a running back. So just answering every question I have as far as running back prospects go. He's not perfect by any means, and he's not going to have the Saquon Barkley athleticism, but he's going to surprise some people. And almost no one in terms of NFL draft circles, draft sites, has him ranked very high. I think he's a day two talent. I think it's going to take some time, maybe until January, maybe until the combine, but people are going to come around on Javonte Williams. I'm confident.
Oh, I agree, man. You watch the tape and Carter seems like the safer name. I think people are enamored by his what he does, but I do think what you said, Williams is so much more explosive and just so much more. I think he can bring more to the NFL game, than Carter. Carter's an all right receiver, but you see where Williams is much, much better as a receiver, but a pretty darn good runner as well. So, yeah, it's hard. It's almost like the apples and oranges for that. A lot of people like Carter better. I think Williams has got the higher upside.
And it's not like he hasn't produced. I mean, like as a true sophomore, he had like 1,100 plus yards. So, really excited to see. I think he probably ends up actually staying around one more year to actually get a full feature back workload, and then really rises up the boards. Yeah. But he is eligible for next spring's draft. So, in a class that's lacking outside of maybe three options that are really safe-ish at running back, Williams could definitely rise up boards.
Oh yeah, he could make some money if he decided to come out this year. So, all right, my next guy is a freshman Jordan Addison for Pittsburgh, a guy I didn't really think would hit the ground running like he has, and he has looked absolutely amazing this year thus far with 444 yards on 38 receptions. He's shown a lot of maturity, which he was recruited. He was a four-star guy, but he was also a safety prospect. Thankfully, he went to receiver. You can kind of see a little bit of the safety in the way he plays, as how he understands like route running techniques. His technical aspects of what he does is amazing for a freshman. Like his release off the line, body control, the way he tracks the ball. You can definitely see a little bit of that safety in his game just by the way he reacts to the ball and things. So I really like that a lot in him, and I think he's got a really, really high upside. A guy who I really wasn't even hardly even on my radar going into the season, as he was there, but I didn't expect to see anything, especially this soon. So he's a huge riser for me. He's already showing a lot of maturity as a freshman. So I like Jordan Addison quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's the wide receiver one for the 2023 class right now. I mean, if you look at his production this year as a true freshman versus any other true freshman in the nation, he has 234 more yards receiving than the next best true freshman, and he's posting nearly a 30% dominator rating if you like production profile scores. So that's good enough for a true freshman breakout production wise, and like you said, he's got all the technical things going for him now, and he's clearly the alpha for the Pittsburgh offense. So that kid looks like a pro already.
He does, man. It's amazing. All right, we got to get to your last guy, man. This is a guy who I swear I didn't trash the last couple of weeks, but I have not been overly impressed with him this year. But yeah, you have to be a little bit after this last week. So
yeah, so Mac Jones for Alabama just posted his third straight 400-yard passing game. Alabama in school program history has 8 400-yard passing games. 3 of them are Mac Jones, and they've all been in the last 3 games. The dude has absolutely killed it. And the only reason he didn't put up 400 in the first week is because they crushed Missouri in like a quarter and a half, and then they just kind of coasted. Missouri almost kind of made it a game again for like a half second, but he didn't have to do anything. Like we could be looking at a guy with 4 straight 400-yard passing games to start the season had things gone just a little bit different that week 1. And then he comes off and has 417 yards against Georgia, like an offense or a defense that had been shutting down everybody, a defense that's full of future NFL talent. And Mac Jones just slicing and dicing and making it look easy. Obviously, he's got some pro wide receivers to throw the ball to, but my goodness, Mac Jones putting up more adjusted yards per pass attempt than even Tua did last year. So bonkers profile this year. If he keeps this up, he's going to be a first-round pick. He's not going to beat out Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields or even Trey Lance, perhaps. But I think he could be that quarterback. He's in the QB3 conversation, but I think he could be a first-round pick if he keeps this up.
Right. I didn't. Yeah. What I saw, I saw a lot of his short passes that his receivers broke long. That kind of made me question what he could do a little bit. But then last week, I mean, you watch what he does, and he does have what I think I like best is he's just incredibly smart with the ball. He knows what his receivers can do, and he throws where they can catch it. And he does have a pretty good deep ball. He does miss sometimes on long ones, but hey, not everybody's perfect. So, and he still has only started 7 games at this point. He hasn't had that many. So, yeah, definite riser. So after this last week, I came away pretty impressed with him, and I had him at 6 before the game. So I think you've got to talk him in the 3-4 range though. So. My last guy. This is kind of a sad note because I have absolutely puffed up Matt Corral up until this point. Coral, however you say it. You're the guy that pronounces everything right. You're the one who is it. Coral or Corral?
I think it's Corral. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I've been just absolutely enamored with the way he played. Then he goes and throws 6 interceptions this last weekend. I'm like.
Yeah.
And then I got the game tape, and I'm like, okay, we're good. Maybe there were tip passes. No, they were a lot of really bad, stupid passes, like right into double, triple coverage. I'm like, what? And it's almost like Arkansas knew what he was doing, like before he was going to do it. They're like they were dropping guys, shallow, dropping back, like they knew he was going to throw it to the receiver, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was abysmal. But I still think I like him a lot still, but there is definitely growing pains that he's going to have to go through, and I was hoping he would stay another year anyways. So I think he's going to have to after this game, because these days, in order to get drafted, you can't throw 6 interceptions in a season almost, so let alone in a game. So that was kind of a rough one for me. So
yeah, and the Arkansas really has turned it around though, really quick. New defensive coordinator there is a genius. Sam Pittman, head coach, really he's getting the best out of the talent there. But Arkansas has some decent defenders. Even I really like Pumper Pool, their linebacker, but he's always in the right spot. But they've just had a bunch of guys step up, and they shut down Ole Miss, and that was a shame to see because I was pumped about Matt Corral. I think 2 or 3 weeks prior, I talked about him as being, somebody that could rise with a crazy year into first round discussion as well. And he's probably going to have to just stick around for another year because that's a huge black eye on his resume. It's going to be almost impossible to make up that awful performance now.
Yeah, so unless he goes out and just absolutely kills it the rest of the season, but I don't know, it would be rough. So, all right, this is the meat and potatoes. This is why I brought you on, Travis. I'm so excited, man. Big Ten's back, so we're gonna do a kind of a Big Ten preview, some of the storylines behind the teams, some of the guys we're watching this year. Hopefully, some Devy risers, some guys just to keep your eye out for. I didn't do this in any sort of random order. I just listed them. So we'll start out with Indiana. Sorry about that. Indiana has a couple interesting guys on their team. Senior wide receiver, Philor, I think Philor, I think is how it's pronounced, and junior running back Stevie Scott. Both of them are pretty good options. Do you really like? I put on there that I didn't think they were NFL talents, but I didn't mean that. I meant they're not like NFL starting talents. I think both of them will have a role in the league. What do you see when you see Stevie Scott, though? It feels like that's another guy. It feels like he's been around for more years than he has. I couldn't believe he was only a junior. So
Yeah, and it feels like Stevie Scott's been around for forever because he was blowing people up as a true freshman. He's a really, really thick-bodied guy. I mean, he can look like a plotter, but then again, so did Jordan Howard when he was at IU. So I think Stevie Scott, if he fills out a little bit more on his receiving profile again, given the fact that they don't have very many options through the air other than Wap himself, so I think that they'll probably feed the running back again through the air also. I don't think that either are going to be early round picks. I think Stevie Scott, though, could sneak into early day 3 discussion if IU does have a decent season. And I think Penix at quarterback, he's not a future pro, but he's good enough to make his players look good at the college level, at the Big Ten level. So I think he's good enough to keep the offense rolling and on the field. And if Stevie Scott has some goal line opportunities this year, he could have a kind of a stupid looking touchdown profile as well. So I'm holding out hope that Stevie Scott can be relevant in the NFL.
Right. They actually played Penn State this week. I think that's a potential upset right there too. I saw somebody post that earlier. I'm like, yeah, Indiana could give Penn State a trouble this weekend. So that could be a fun game to watch this weekend. So let's see.
Yeah, anything's possible this year.
Oh, no kidding, man. Purdue, take it away, Purdue. Travis.
So yeah, Rondale Moore's back. So that is huge news. Yeah. So Rondale Moore, obviously a couple weeks ago, decided to announce that. I guess he actually had on ESPN. I think they had him on to make the announcement official personally. But I think that he and David Bell can both produce. I think some people were worried because David Bell broke out in Rondale Moore's absence. Well, who gets the ball now? But people are forgetting that Bryson Hopkins, their star tight end, who actually accounted for, I think, over 20% of the team's receiving yards. I think it may have been closer to 25% of the receiving yards last year, is gone now. And they don't really have an easy replacement at that position that is as competent as a receiver and blocker as Hopkins was. So I think Bell and Moore are going to be on the field 100% of the snaps, essentially, and they're both going to eat. I think that because they don't have anyone else that's really proven, they could be – both of them could be hanging around 30% dominator rating this year, accounting for 30+% receiving yard market share. And I don't know who scores the touchdowns, but really, I think they both can eat. The running backs there, I'm not excited about King Doru that much anymore. I think he flashed early, but I think I guess Tyrek Murphy, I think, is the guy, the true freshman coming in. I don't know if he's really going to be ready to make an impact for Devy or NFL draft purposes. And the quarterback is going to be a huge decision coming up here for Braun. But I think it's probably going to be Plummer again. Aiden O'Connell did okay down the stretch, but I think Plummer is going to be the guy that can get the ball to the playmakers on the outside. He has a little bit more arm strength, I think, than the other two options they're considering right now. But I think the line right now for their wins is like 2.5 or like maybe 3. If you're getting generous. So if you can find them at 2.5, I would bet the over every single time because they actually have George Karlaftis on the defensive line. They've got some decent linebackers coming up, and a few actually decent recruits that are still developing in the secondary too. So I think they're going to be underrated across the board this year. Could get close to hang around 4-4, but be involved in some shootouts thanks to Rondale Moore and David Bell just making some plays. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the Boilermaker offense actually looks like. Not necessarily their entire defense, but a few big names that I think could make a difference enough to keep them in games and keep it tight and keep them, giving them a reason to keep scoring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bell and Moore are just so much fun to watch. Both of those guys, they bring such different skill sets to the game, and they actually have Xander Horvath as the top running back on our lads.
Yeah, Sean Shivers. Sean Shivers was the guy at the top of the Auburn running back depth chart at the beginning of the year. It's such like empty lip service that some of these coaches do just out of respect, I guess. Like they're upperclassmen, but they never actually lead the team in carries one time. So Horvath's okay, but he's like basically a cement-footed fullback type more than he is an actual running back.
Yeah, he's. Whew. Yeah, and then speaking of depth chart, at Maryland they actually have Lance Legendre. I'm going to be all fancy and French say it as the starting quarterback, and kind of surprised that they don't have. Here you go, Travis. How do you pronounce the little Tagovailoa's name?
So I think it's Talia.
Talia,
or Talia. I don't know. I haven't gotten that one figured. I've heard so many people mispronounce it. I'm just gonna wait. But it's Lance Legendre, actually. Yeah. Did you ever watch Netflix's QB1? He was actually on there.
I didn't actually. I should have. I hear a lot of good stuff about it. So.
Oh yeah. And he was actually featured on there, and it was really weird that he could have gone to Florida State and decommitted. So it would have been interesting had they kept with him because they actually could have had a really fun athletic quarterback. Legendre is good enough to keep the job. I mean, I like Little Tagovailoa, but Legendre is good enough to keep that job. I think it's all going to depend on what happens in the first couple weeks because they right now they have the depth chart marked as like with a big or, like all caps or in between the quarterbacks. So I think both of them can get the ball to their wide receivers. Legendre has an arm. He's got a rocket, and he's a really fun NFL-sized dual threat type guy. So I really hope they stick with him. I know that's against everyone else in the Devy community and against what most people want to see, but I really like Legendre. And so I want to see him get the ball to Demas and Raheem Jarrett, who's basically Deebo Samuel, and Jashawn Jones is going to be healthy now. So that offense could be surprisingly good right out of the gate and wow some people. I think the line right now in Maryland in their first week's matchup, I think it's like plus 11 or I think at least like 10 or 10.5. I would take that every day. So if you're into making that kind of betting decision right now in this weird COVID season, but I think Legendre's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually have been a little apprehensive about. I'll just call him Little Tua for now, just because the size and the everybody wants to follow that name. But why did he transfer? If he thought he could have been the next starting quarterback at Alabama, like. You start to kind of question maybe he's not as good and he's kind of riding on Tua's coattails a little bit, so I've been a little apprehensive about him. Not like when I saw he went to Maryland, I'm like, oh, that's a good shot for him. They've got, that's wide receiver almost these days, it seems like. So, so they got some good wide receiver prospects there. So thought it was a good move for him. So let's see what he does, I guess. So,
yeah.
All right, we'll bounce over to my team next if we have to, Michigan State. Hoping they can get back to winning. It's been a rough couple years. We kind of kicked around Michigan for a couple years there and got all cocky, and then last couple years have been rough. So I do like Elijah Collins a little bit. It seemed like he was playing really well at first, and then toward the end of the year, you started to see a little bit of apprehension in the way he ran and a little timidness, which I didn't like. So hopefully he can bounce back, get his confidence back. Jaden Reed, the transfer from Western Michigan, the sky is the limit for this kid. So I really hope that they can get him involved in the offense. not very keen on their quarterbacks, not very keen on the whole team, as a whole. Like I think it's Rocky Lombardi. I think is going to start. I'm not sure. I don't even know. Like I have usually have my pulse to Michigan State, and this year I don't. I have like nowhere near the pulse that I normally do. Like this team is just. I think we're just trying to find our way. It's been a rough couple of years. So yeah, right now they have Peyton Thorne listed as a starter. So
Yeah.
Theo Day is probably the only one who's like enticing from but he's got to get the starting reps first. So I don't know if you have anything on my Spartans.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Reed, it's funny. It feels like forever since we've seen that guy on the field. But for those listeners not familiar with Jaden Reed, he was blowing it up for Western Michigan. I guess almost 2 full years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we've seen him on the field, but he broke out I guess it was his true freshman season and had like a 35% dominator there, which is accounting for 35% of the team's receiving yards and touchdowns, blowing it up there. So I think he's going to have that huge market share opportunity in an offense that needs him to carry the load, completely missing a lot of production from last year. And so I think he has a perfect opportunity to basically be the only playmaker for them through the air, whereas Elijah Collins had the perfect opportunity to be the only playmaker that they had in the backfield that was decent. And his playing style, he's going to have to learn how to evade tackles in a way that makes him last more than half the season. I think he was just apprehensive because I'm not sure he was healthy down the stretch for Michigan State just a year ago. So I hope he stays healthy 100% and can really just get back to his strong, aggressive, tenacious form of play, because Collins is good enough to play on Sundays, I think, for sure. I'm not sure he'll be more than a day 3 pick, but he's got some skill. So I think both these guys could be day 3 picks one day.
Right, yeah, because I don't think under the best circumstances he's not going to have a very giant year. I don't think, even if they rely on him entirely, that line is still, So,
yeah,
yeah,
not great. Yeah.
All right, next we'll go over to Michigan. This is kind of a fun one. Probably I think it's a really critical year for them this year. They have a new quarterback, Joe Milton. Unfortunately, they still have Jim Harbaugh, and hopefully he will open the offense up a little bit and let his quarterback throw. I don't know. What do you think of Zach Charbonnet? Because I'm kind of out on him. I didn't love him a lot last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good college player. Like, he's a big-bodied, good college player with decent pedigree as a recruit. But I think even, I guess, like halfway through last year, we were just kind of waiting for him to do something really impressive. I guess it's impressive that he, earned much of an early role at all. Some of the top recruits of this year are not doing that, but he didn't even look like the best running back on his team last year for really half the time. So
Right.
I'm going to need to see a huge step up and more involvement as a pass catcher to be really excited about Charbonnet at all for them at running back. But wide receiver is more intriguing to me just because somebody's going to have to catch some passes, and I'm not sure who that's
Right.
going to be, but they're going to have all kinds of opportunity now that Nico Collins is gone.
Right. Yeah. You mentioned Ronnie Bell, and he's a guy who seemed like he was always there for the big catch last year for him.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of other names. Roman Wilson has got kind of a buzz in the community as a guy who could step up. AJ Henning, I like him a lot, but he's just a smaller guy, freshman. Could
Yeah.
play a different, role that they really haven't had at Michigan in quite some time. So,
Yeah,
you like
Roman
Cornelius
Wilson's
Johnson?
got.
Yeah.
I do like Cornelius Johnson quite a bit. I think he's probably going to be the guy. He's got that 6'3" size and ran a sub 4.6 in high school. He's added some weight, it looks like, from what I've seen. So I think he could be the guy that breaks out as their kind of big X receiver and target funnel outside of Ronnie Bell. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they have enough market yet. I don't think they're going to throw it enough to really give us 3 wide receivers that are super interesting. We tried to make that happen with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Nico Collins and Tariq Black. That's just not going to happen on Michigan as long as Harbaugh is there. But Cornelius Johnson, I think, could be interesting. Roman Wilson legit has like sub 4.4 speed. That's why I'm interested in him. If he can climb the depth chart, I think he's not really in line to start much. But we'll see. He's still got some time, true freshman. So really a lot of exciting players there. Just not sure which one it's going to be.
If any, right? You
Yeah,
never really
if
know.
any,
But
because I mean,
yeah.
their big
Ugh.
receiver might catch 30 balls this year. So who knows?
Yeah, that offense just seems like it's still stuck in, the Wolverines offense that was good back in the 90s, so
Yeah.
like it's just you want to
When
see them
Harbaugh was there.
evolve. Yeah, exactly. You want to see it evolve into like the SEC has all of a sudden evolved into a different type of offense.
Yeah.
Why can't Harbaugh catch up? Like
They
he's
need to
got to
get
open
there.
things
Otherwise,
up. Yeah.
Harbaugh's not going to be there.
No,
So,
because if he loses to Ohio State again this year, and he trudges to 5 wins and 5-3, he's probably not going to be there anymore. So, all right, Penn State's next. Obviously, we talked about Journey Brown at the top of the show. I like Noah Kane's got that draft pedigree, but you also like Jahan Dotson as well. So let's see what do you got in Penn State there, Travis.
yeah, Noah Kane and Devin Ford, I guess, who's still there, could be interesting at running back. But Noah Kane did kind of. He's more of I don't think he's got the athleticism. He could be a big-bodied plotter in the pros, maybe. But I'm not super excited about either of the running backs necessarily, unless they completely have went through some sort of transformation. And that strength and conditioning program might have gotten them there, maybe. They've done that with a bunch of running backs here recently and a bunch of playmakers here recently. But Jahan Dotson reminds me a lot of early career and college version of Emmanuel Sanders. Like that's the vibe I get when I watch Jahan Dotson play. I think just like how he moves out of his routes, out of his breaks, how he bends. Like I think Jahan Dotson could be a legit pro prospect after this season because he's going to be sharing with basically Pat Fryermuth and a bunch of guys that haven't done much. So Jahan Dotson could have that breakout huge year that we saw from Hamler. And so I think he's going to be that target. And they've got a veteran quarterback who can get him the ball. So I'm excited to see him break out there alongside the humongous person that we call Pat Fryermuth, the tight end. And that's really the most sure thing NFL prospect on the team. I think he could be a first-round NFL draft pick next spring, if not, top 50 NFL draft pick at the position.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree, man. Totally agree. All right, let's see what we got next here. Rutgers, you got anything? No?
Oh, man. The guy who spells
Rutgers.
Isaiah wrong, the running back that I spelled his name Isaiah wrong. I can't even remember his last name right now. He's basically the only thing they have going for him. But Rutgers is going to lose all their games. They're not going to win anything unless they can figure out a way to beat Michigan State this weekend, maybe. But they're going to go over.
Hey.
So, I've got nothing. I've got nothing to say. I mean, like this offense, like if you look at their last 4 years and add all the passing touchdowns up together, that still falls short, I think, of what Joe Burrow did just last year. So it's not got a lot going on.
It's funny that Artur Sitkowski is the quarterback there, and he's only a redshirt sophomore. I feel like he's been their quarterback for 4 years. So
yeah, he's thrown enough interceptions, I think, for 4 years. But
right. All right,
yeah, not great.
Next up, we have Nebraska. I'm not terribly excited about much on this offense. I do like Wan'Dale Robinson quite a bit. So I don't know if you have anything on Nebraska, any guys that stick out that you'd like to see this year?
No, I mean I can squint and maybe get interested in Dedrick Mills or maybe Omar Manning, the transfer, I guess. But it's Wan'Dale Robinson and nothing else. I mean, we thought Adrian Martinez would be something, but he's going to be splitting reps with Luke McCaffrey at quarterback. So I'm not interested there anymore. So it's Wan'Dale and nothing else.
Right. Iowa, another team is kind of probably going to be looking for their identity, but somehow always find a way to. They always seem to find their way into the Big Ten race. Always it's never very pretty, never very Devy fantasy relevant. But Tyler Goodson, some people like him too much. I think he's a little bit too small to do a whole lot in the NFL. Maybe if he added some size. You got a couple guys that you liked though on the team.
Yeah, and Tyler Goodson, I think he. More and more, I think we're going to see smaller guys that just have receiving ability can stick a little bit in the pros. But, yeah, he needs to wow us a little bit more as a runner, I think, to really round out his profile. But Luke O'Shea, true freshman tight end, might eventually be that next great tight end that comes out of Iowa. But I don't think any of the guys currently there are going to be the next George Kittle or anything. So we like to talk about Iowa tight ends, but it might be a couple years before Lachey really starts putting together some nice production. That's just how college tight ends usually go, unless you're like a 5-star
Right.
kid. And then Amir Smith-Marset has a nice all-purpose skill set. I think he has a couple return touchdowns, but really career for kick returns, punt returns. Like I think kick returns, I'm pretty sure he's averaging over 25 yards, closer to 30 yards per return. He's really electric in that aspect. So that alone is going to get him into NFL draft discussions. He's not going to check all the production boxes that we like to see for the analytics nerds that get pumped about Devy, but he's going to be one of those guys that we're like, for a lot of people on NFL draft day, it comes into round 4 and some team takes Amir Smith-Marset and everyone's like, who? And it's because he can wow in all phases of the game. He can take a jet sweep. He can work it down the field and stack wide receivers or stack defensive backs okay. Like there's nothing that wows necessarily in his receiving profile necessarily, like and that screams like starting NFL wide receiver, but he could be somebody that sneaks in and stays on a roster for a long time and is like that, Zay Jones or like that, Tajay Sharp type that just kind of gets tossed around in the NFL and hangs out and produces once or twice in here or there. And you think about picking him up once or twice on the waivers, but not really an anchor to rely on for fantasy.
Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, that's a good call for him. All right, Minnesota is one of the more exciting teams in the Big Ten. Hopefully, they obviously have a big act to follow up after last year, but I'm so happy that Rashad Bateman came back. I think it will only help him. I already had him as my wide receiver too. I don't know where you have him, but I love his great. I think he just has a really good all-around game. Really good route runner, wins early, creates separation, tracks deep balls. I mean, he's just a guy that you love a lot. To be curious, he's going to be the one, the one. There's no Tyler Johnson on the other side this year, so it'll be fun to watch him. And then Tanner Morgan, I kind of want to see him take a step forward as a guy who, also in the 6-7 range possibly next year. I see a lot of things that I like when he plays. You just want to see him put it all together. My notes on him: I love his footwork, his touch, and his accuracy. He doesn't have much of a deep ball, not much for arm strength, but I like him a lot. I think he's a smart quarterback. It makes a lot of good throws, so I'd like to see him take a step forward, and he could also kind of be one of those guys that day 2, early day 3 type quarterback if he has another good year. So if you have anything else on Minnesota there.
Yeah, I definitely like both the players you mentioned. Mo Ibrahim. Ibrahim is probably good. Kai Thomas, whatever his face is, the freshman, could be good eventually as a runner. And then Rashad Bateman and Tanner Morgan, I think, are the guys that I'm really interested in. That offense really, it's super friendly to wide receivers. It's a bunch of slants. It's a bunch of double moves to get some space. Whether you're slow or fast or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you can run a route, if you can fake on a double move. Rashad Bateman not led the nation, but Minnesota rather led the nation in completions on slants last year, and I think double moves both because that's like 90% of their offense. So I think they're going to do a lot more of that, and Bateman's going to have a crazy receiving year. Probably impresses even further. I think he has an 86th percentile adjusted production index right now. But I think that after this year, he's probably going to be a 90th plus percentile player, which, by the way, like if you have a 90th percentile, like adjusted production index, mixing dominator rating, yards per team pass attempt, and touchdowns per team pass attempt, you essentially get picked in the first round, second round, or third round, like almost 90% of the time. Like it's crazy. So I think he's got super safe, even though, we were really excited about Tyler Johnson a year ago. I think we have even more reason to be excited about Rashad Bateman. He's a much better player all around than Tyler Johnson, and was immediately taking receptions from him, even as a true freshman. So I like Bateman quite a bit.
Right. So he's going to take over the slant title from Michael Thomas then?
He's going to be
okay.
the slant title man at the next level for sure.
It's weird that you mentioned that because that's what Western Michigan did for Corey Davis, and they do tend to so it's a good comparison there. So all right, next we got Northwestern. I don't know if you have anything on Northwestern. I don't have anybody I'm really
I mean, their offense was like the worst in college football history last year or so, something like that. So the Hunter Johnson, is not going to be. I mean, he for those of you not familiar, Hunter Johnson was like a big recruit back in the day. Ended up going to Clemson, transferred. Like, oh, he's going to go make Northwestern good, and it did not go well. And so they bring in Peyton Ramsey. Maybe Peyton Ramsey can make somebody relevant there at quarterback. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to get excited about. Maybe Isaiah Bowser has a better year. They like to feed the running back, so Bowser could be the guy that takes that leap. But I'm not really pumped about any Northwestern player right now.
Right, right. Okay, and that's it, right? We don't have to talk about the last team, right?
Yeah, I don't think we
We're
need
out
to
of
talk
time.
about. Yeah, there's no
We're out
way
of time.
we don't have time to talk about the university capital, the
Ugh.
THE, whatever they are. All right,
Yeah. I suppose we probably should. All
I
right.
guess so.
Ohio, Ohio State. Anyways, they'll probably come in ranked third. They'll just go right in ranked third on the behind Alabama and Clemson. So obviously the big names. Fun, Justin Fields would be good to see him play. Chris
Yeah,
Olave, Trey Sermon. The talent everywhere on this team. Garrett Wilson, Julian Fleming, Jackson Smith, Najigma. So yeah, these guys are going to be fun. Have you heard anything lately on Master Teague? Actually, I was kind of wondering. I was searching to see
yeah.
if,
So,
and
I,
there's nothing. Like it's
yeah,
weird.
I guess. I mean, he did something. It's funny. Like if you look at back into like detailed reports on his Achilles injury, like did he completely tear it? I don't know. Like
No, they
I
weren't
did.
detailed at all.
They weren't
Yeah.
at all. Like so, there was an Achilles injury for Master Teague, but what we've seen here recently is that players can actually somehow come back in under a year from an Achilles injury. So this was way back, I guess, in January or
Yeah, it
just
was a
even like
while.
late
Yeah.
December that this happened. So he's probably going to be available like as early as next month. With this delayed season, actually probably helped him. So if he's available around Thanksgiving, that's going to be huge for this offense. But Trey Sermon he's going to have about 3-4 weeks probably to prove that he is worth that basically the most I don't know, the most valuable role, and just from a production standpoint in all of college football for running backs. I mean, like I
Right.
know there are other guys doing crazy things, but just what that scheme does and opening up holes and creating favorable matchups for their running backs in between the tackles, I think Trey Sermon has a huge opportunity to just put up some bonkers numbers in this month. If he does not put up bonkers numbers, it's going to be Teague's job whenever he's back. But I don't think either of these guys are a safe bet, just because one or the other might sap the opportunity out of the other. But whoever, if somebody does go off for this team that's going to go undefeated this year until they get to the college football playoff, that's going to be huge for the draft stock. They're probably going to be a day two
Right.
pick. They're going to walk into it and without having to do much at all. Really impressive on their own because this offense just makes everyone look good. So Olave is going to score another dozen touchdowns. Garrett Wilson's going to score 8 or 9 touchdowns. And then one of these freshmen, probably Jackson Smith and Jigma, is going to step up and, score, a touchdown on half his catches this year. Like, so it's going to be a crazy, productive, and unreal offense. I like Julian Fleming. A lot of people calling him the next Julio Jones. I think that's a little bit much.
Yeah.
Smith and Jigba, I think, might be even better. He's one of the most prolific, high school producers that we've ever seen in the history of high school sports. So that's shown to be pretty meaningful lately. Like guys like David Bell, like he was the most productive high school receiver in basically like Indianapolis, all their district's history. Like he was putting up dumb numbers for Warren Central, and then immediately produced at a big level for Purdue. Jackson Smith and Jigma, I'm really intrigued to see if he can actually garner some market share early on. Because if he does, he'll immediately be like the wide receiver too. Whoever, whatever wide receiver steps up for Ohio State is probably immediately going to be the wide receiver two for 2023.
Right. Right. Very good. Yeah. Actually, I have not been overly impressed with Sermon. So, like you said, this offense is so friendly to what he can do, though, and
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
might help his draft stock, but I still want to watch him a little closer. Like I was not overly impressed with him at Oklahoma. Like I thought he was really inconsistent. At times he looked great, and then at times he just looked like just his vision was off. Like everything was off. Like he just wasn't good. So Yeah, like just not good. Like,
Yeah, and he
so
wasn't
I
always
don't know.
healthy either, but it's just
Right.
so it's hard to really get a good gauge on him. But yeah, unreal opportunity now for at least 4 weeks until Master Teague might be back.
Right. So, all right. Do you mind if we stop there, or do you want to talk about the 2021? Okay,
No, I think that's
it's up to
good.
you. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's long. I usually try to keep it under an hour. We're right at an hour, so
Sure.
that'll work. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our Big Ten preview. So a lot to talk about, a lot to be excited about. I'm happy Travis got to come on with me. I wanted to make sure that I brought someone on that loved the Big Ten, hopefully just as much as I do. So I know you like Auburn too. So I'll give you a pass on that though. So all right, Travis, can you tell everybody what you're working on, what you got going on in the pipes?
Sure. Yeah, I'm working on a lot at RotoViz these days for the most part. I've written for all sorts of sites, but now trying to keep it centralized, doing an NFL prospects weekly series over at RotoViz, and also building a college football DFS model every single week to help you guys win some on the weekends there if you can play that in your state, but always ranking some Devy and future NFL prospects for RotoViz. And of course, my new podcast, the College to Canton show, is just been a blast. 17 episodes in. So definitely check that out as well. And you can find me on Twitter at FF_TravisM. Glad to just talk football any chance I can get. So, yeah, thanks again for having me. This is a blast talking about all these Big Ten teams, all these future NFL players, and all these players that are definitely not going to the pros, like the ones playing for Rutgers and Northwestern too. So, yeah, it's a good time.
So got to bring back touchdown time with Travis. Come on. No,
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
need to
kidding.
start doing some more of those videos again. That would be
Those
fun.
are always
But,
a fun little couple-minute clip. I always like them.
yeah,
So. All
appreciate
right,
it.
and you can you can find my work at DLF. Just doing Devy roundups every week, and I've got on my Devy Manual YouTube channel. I got to make sure I plug it on here. I don't normally, but I've been trying to make lots of prospect cut ups. I think I added 10 last week, and I'm on 4 this week already. So just a fun way to watch these guys that we talk about in 7-8 minutes. At the most. That's quarterbacks. Usually the wide receivers and running backs are only 3-4 minute long. So nice way to see the clips. And I try to also. I include losses, incomplete passes, blocks, things like that. I try to highlight more than just, the big plays. So anyways, that's something I've been working on a lot lately. So, and you can find this podcast at Devy Manual on Twitter, and we will talk to you guys next week. That is it. I don't have a fun little clever tagline on the way out. So
That's okay. They're overrated. I think I used to do that, keep living that dynasty life thing. But
yes.
I think I retired that now though. But it was fun.
Yeah, have you got to talk to Andrew? Is he like I have not seen him like on Earth or anything.
No,
I don't
so
see
he
him on Twitter.